Have you ever encountered something so unnerving that you questioned every reality you thought you knew? I never believed in curses, haunted computers, or the supernatural, until that night when everything changed. It was a stormy evening in mid-October, the kind of night when the wind moans and the rain hammers against your window as if warning you away from secrets best left undiscovered. My name is Alex, and I've always prided myself on my rational mind. I work from home, alone in my quiet apartment tucked away in a sleepy suburb of a mid-sized American town. That night, while I was finishing up some freelance work, a peculiar email caught my attention. The subject line was cryptic: the website that shouldn't exist. I remember a chill creeping up my spine as I hesitated over the mouse. But curiosity, so like the hunger of a moth for the flame, won over caution, and I clicked. The web page that opened was nothing like I had ever seen. The design was outdated, reminiscent of early 90s internet pages, but marred by a distortion that made everything feel warped. The background was a swirling mass of dark static, punctuated by flashes of text in a font that seemed to shift between readability and indecipherable scribbles. Even as I stared, the words morphed before my eyes, and a low, almost inaudible hum began to pulse from my speakers. I leaned in, trying to make sense of it, unaware that I was stepping into a trap laid by something far more sinister than mere computer glitches. I tried to shrug it off as a poorly coded prank, a digital hoax meant to spook the curious. But as I scrolled further down the page, a series of images began to load. They were photographs of obscure, abandoned places, old houses, desolate roads, forgotten playgrounds, all shrouded in darkness and decay. What unnerved me most, though, was that nestled among these images were snapshots of places I recognized. One photograph, taken from a peculiar angle, showed my own living room. I froze. I'd never taken a photo of my apartment, and yet there it was. A dim, grainy image of my couch, the lamp in the corner, and, in the far background, a vague, indistinct figure lurking in the shadows. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up as I scrolled back, heart pounding in my chest. At that moment, I heard a faint whisper, almost as if the website itself had spoken directly to me. The voice was soft and sibilant, murmuring my name in a language that seemed both familiar and alien. Alex, it hissed, so quiet that I wondered if I was imagining it. But deep down I knew it was real. And so began a descent into a digital nightmare that I am still struggling to understand. The unraveling. I attempted to close the web page, but the browser refused to comply. My mouse clicked and double-clicked, yet the screen remained frozen on that eerie page. Panic mingled with disbelief as I tried every trick I knew, force-quitting the browser, restarting my computer. Nothing worked. It was as though the website had rooted itself into my very system. And then, when I finally managed to shut it down, I thought I'd escaped the terror. But I was wrong. 4 days afterward, strange events continued to plague me. My computer would boot up on its own at odd hours, and every time it did, there it was, a flash of that same haunted page, only now the images were even more disturbing. I began noticing subtle changes in my everyday life. At night, the shadows in my apartment seemed to twist into grotesque shapes. Sometimes I'd catch a glimpse of a figure in the reflection of my computer screen, a silhouette that vanished as soon as I turned around. The real terror began one fateful evening. I was alone in my apartment, sitting at my desk with my computer off, trying to convince myself that the recent events were nothing more than a series of vivid nightmares spurred by stress and too much caffeine. Suddenly, the room was bathed in an unearthly blue glow. My phone buzzed relentlessly on the desk, and when I answered, all I could hear was static, punctuated by an intermittent, garbled voice. I felt an inexplicable compulsion to return to the computer, to confront the phantom that had invaded my life. Against every instinct, I powered it back on. The screen came to life with the familiar, distorted image of that cursed website. This time, however, it was different. The hum from the speakers had grown louder, more insistent, and I could see the text on the page pulsating like a heartbeat. As I stared, a new section of the site began to load, a live video feed that sent a jolt of terror through me. The camera was positioned in my own living room, capturing every detail of the space I believed I controlled. But what I saw was anything but ordinary. There, in the dim glow of my apartment, a dark figure stood silently in the corner. It was vague at first, a shape more than a person, but as the seconds ticked by, the figure's features became disturbingly clear. Its eyes were hollow voids of endless darkness, and its face was twisted in a silent scream of agony. The live feed was unyielding, unblinking, and as I watched, I felt the icy grip of dread steal away my rational mind. I tried to run, to tear my gaze away, but I was frozen, prisoner to a horror that defied explanation. I began to document everything. Every incident, Every inexplicable occurrence was recorded in a journal that I hoped might someday help me piece together what was happening. My hands trembled as I scribbled down details of the voices that whispered in the dead of night, the strange symbols that appeared on my computer screen, and the disconcerting images that flashed through my peripheral vision. I wrote of a feeling of being watched, of a presence that lurked just beyond the veil of normality. I could no longer ignore the sense that my life had been irrevocably changed, that some dark force had latched onto me through that unholy digital portal. Sleep became a scarce commodity. I'd lie awake in bed for hours, the silence of my apartment broken only by the hum of my computer left on in a fitful vigil. Sometimes I'd awaken to find my keyboard typing by itself, letters forming words that made no sense at first. But later, when I looked closer, they spelled out warnings. "You belong to us," one message read in jagged, error-riddled text. Another day, I found a message scrawled on a sticky note stuck to my monitor: "Don't look behind you." My heart hammered in my chest as I read and reread these cryptic messages, each one confirming that the entity behind the website was not simply a figment of my overactive imagination. One particular night, as the storm raged outside with relentless fury, I decided to confront the mystery head-on. I set up my computer in the center of the living room and connected an external camera, determined to record any anomalies. With trembling fingers, I navigated back to the cursed website. The familiar page loaded slowly, as if the website was deliberately savoring the moment. I sat down, eyes locked on the screen, and waited. The minutes stretched on, punctuated only by the sound of the rain and my own labored breathing. Then, as if on cue, the website began to change. The static background gave way to a series of images, each more horrifying than the last. I saw flashes of abandoned hospitals, desolate graveyards, and distorted faces that seemed to scream silently. The low hum in the speakers morphed into a cacophony of disembodied voices, their tones layered upon one another in a discordant symphony of despair. My heart pounded louder, my pulse quickened, and my palms grew slick with sweat. I could feel the oppressive weight of something ancient and malevolent closing in around me. It was in that moment, at the apex of my terror, that I witnessed the unthinkable. The live feed flickered, and the dark figure from earlier reappeared. But this time it wasn't confined to the corner of my room. It moved with a horrifying grace toward the camera. I tried to scream, but my voice was trapped in my throat. The figure reached out, its hand stretching impossibly long, and with a sudden jarring movement, it seemed to shatter the barrier between the digital and the real. A piercing, inhuman cry erupted from the speakers, and I felt as though the very fabric of my existence was unraveling. In that instant, I understood that the website was not merely a haunted collection of images and messages. It was a gateway, a portal for an otherworldly presence that had long been confined to the dark recesses of cyberspace. This malevolent force had found a way to transcend its digital prison and seep into my reality. Every shadow, every whisper, every inexplicable flicker of light now bore the mark of its influence. I was no longer an observer. I had become a captive in a nightmare that defied the boundaries of the physical world. The descent into madness. In the days that followed, the terror only deepened. I tried desperately to rid myself of the cursed website by uninstalling programs, wiping my hard drive, and even going so far as to seek help from online forums dedicated to supernatural phenomena. But every attempt to escape its grasp was met with failure. It was as if the entity had embedded itself into the very essence of my digital life, weaving its presence into every byte and pixel of my existence. I began receiving messages on my phone, texts that contained cryptic symbols and ominous warnings. I would wake up in the middle of the night to find my smart devices turned on, displaying fragments of that unholy page. There were moments when I believed I was losing my grip on reality. I found myself questioning whether the events were real or a product of an overactive, sleep-deprived mind. Yet every time I attempted to dismiss it as mere paranoia, another incident would occur that shattered my rational explanations. I started noticing that the entity seemed to be targeting my personal history, displaying intimate details about my childhood, my secrets, and even the private sorrows I had long buried. It was as if it had been watching me for years, waiting for the perfect moment to make its move. One evening, I decided to document everything with a live stream, hoping that if I could share my experience, I might find others who had encountered this same terror. I set up my camera, positioned it so that my face and the haunted corner of my room were in view, and pressed record. The stream began normally, with me nervously recounting the series of bizarre events that had unfolded. I tried to maintain a semblance of calm, but my voice wavered as I recounted the moment the dark figure reached for the camera. Then, abruptly, the feed distorted. The image fragmented into multiple overlapping scenes, My face, the dark figure, and images of unspeakable horror from a realm beyond our understanding. The live stream glitched, and I heard that same inhuman cry reverberating through the speakers, louder and more penetrating than ever before. In that moment, I felt as if I were being pulled apart from the inside. My vision blurred, and I struggled to remain conscious, caught between a waking nightmare and an endless, tormented slumber. When I finally came to, I was lying on the floor of my living room. My computer was off, the live stream long over, but the terror lingered like a malignant presence in the room. I sat up slowly, disoriented and shaken to my core. For a brief moment, I wondered if I had dreamed the entire ordeal. But then I noticed something that made my blood run cold, a handwritten note placed meticulously on my desk. In a shaky scrawl it read, "There is no escape. You are one with us." I stared at it, paralyzed by fear, as the lights overhead flickered and died one by one. The revelation. In the weeks that followed, I attempted to piece together what had happened, poring over every detail recorded in my journal. I sought out experts in digital folklore, paranormal investigators, and even reclusive hackers who specialized in uncovering internet anomalies. Yet every lead only deepened the mystery. None of them had ever heard of a website like the one I had encountered. Some whispered that it was a relic of a dark period in the early days of the internet, a cursed project abandoned by its creators, now resurrected by a force beyond human comprehension. Others insisted it was a modern myth, an urban legend born from the collective paranoia of an increasingly digital society. But deep down I knew the truth. The website was real, and it was far more dangerous than any ghost story or urban legend. I began to notice a pattern. The incidents surrounding the website were not isolated to my life alone. On obscure online forums, other users recounted similar experiences. Websites that defied deletion, mysterious live feeds capturing private moments, and cryptic messages that foretold personal tragedies. It was as if a network of cursed data existed beneath the surface of the internet, hidden in plain sight, waiting for an unsuspecting victim. I reached out to a few of these individuals, hoping to piece together a collective account of this digital plague. Their stories, though fragmented and often incoherent, painted a chilling picture. A malevolent force using the internet as its hunting ground, turning technology into a vessel for terror. One name kept recurring in our discussions, a pseudonym used by a mysterious moderator on one of the dark web forums, the Archivist. According to whispered accounts, the Archivist was the gatekeeper of this cursed network, someone, or something, that preserved the darkest secrets of the internet. I spent countless nights scouring obscure corners of the web, desperate to learn more about this enigmatic figure. Every clue I uncovered led to more questions. Who or what was behind this archive of digital horrors? What was the true nature of the curse? And most disturbingly, why had it chosen me? I remember the moment of revelation as if it were etched into my very soul. Late one night, while reviewing some old forum threads, I stumbled upon a thread that referenced an ancient website rumored to have been created by a group of rogue programmers in the early days of the internet. This website was said to be an experiment in merging the digital with the paranormal, a place where data, memories, and souls could intertwine. The thread mentioned that once you viewed the site, you became a part of its dark tapestry, forever entwined with the cursed legacy of those who had come before you. As I read those words, a cold certainty washed over me. I had unwittingly become a part of something far larger, and infinitely more terrifying, than I could have ever imagined. The inescapable curse. With every passing day, the line between my online and offline life began to blur. I started to see glimpses of the cursed website in places where technology was supposed to be safe. At a local cafe, the digital menu flickered with the same eerie static. On my phone, notifications came in bursts of indecipherable symbols. Even in my dreams, I was haunted by visions of the dark figure, its eyes a void of endless despair, and the relentless whisper, "You belong to us." I tried to resist, to reclaim control over my life, but the curse had embedded itself too deeply. I attempted every known method of digital exorcism, factory resets, secure wipes, even consulting a cybersecurity expert renowned for his unconventional methods. But nothing severed the connection. It was as though the curse was not confined to the digital realm. It had seeped into my very being. The once familiar world around me became a labyrinth of dread, where every flicker of a screen or unexpected beep held the promise of more horror. One particularly harrowing evening, I decided that I had to make one final stand against this relentless force. I isolated my computer in a room with no internet connection and powered it on, determined to confront the entity head-on. The moment the cursed website loaded on the screen, the room's temperature plummeted. I could see my breath in the air, and the silence was broken only by the frantic beating of my heart. I began to speak aloud, addressing the entity as if it were a living thing. "What do you want from me? Why have you chosen my life?" My voice trembled as I demanded answers. For several long minutes, nothing happened, until the screen flickered and the text changed. A single sentence appeared, rendered in a font that felt ancient and otherworldly. "You opened the door, now we walk with you." At that moment, a thunderous knock resounded through the room, a sound so deep and resonant that it shook the very foundations of my soul. I bolted from my seat, stumbling over furniture as I raced out of the room, the words echoing in my ears. I couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed me, a presence that was as relentless as it was unseen. The final descent. In the days that followed, the terror became a constant companion. I found myself waking in cold sweats, every shadow in my apartment morphing into a potential threat. I attempted to seek refuge with friends and family, but even there, technology betrayed me. My phone would light up with disturbing notifications. My smart TV would turn on by itself, displaying fleeting images of the cursed webpage. It became clear that this wasn't a simple case of a haunted computer, it was a curse that had taken over my life. I began to understand the horrifying truth. The cursed website wasn't a random anomaly. It was a deliberate creation, a digital vessel for a malevolent force that thrived on fear and despair. Every piece of data, every whisper of static, was a part of its dark design. It was a network of terror, feeding on the lives of those who dared to seek it out. And I was now an unwilling host to its insatiable hunger. One night, as I sat in the darkened silence of my living room, I realized that I had reached the point of no return. The website's presence had grown so pervasive that it was no longer confined to the realm of computers and screens, it was now a part of me. I could feel it pulsing beneath my skin, a relentless reminder that I was no longer alone in my own mind. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the ghostly figure, its eyes burning with a terrible intensity, whispering secrets meant only for the damned. I made one last desperate attempt to break the curse. I gathered every piece of technology one owned, computers, phones, tablets, and smashed them to pieces, hoping that destroying the devices might sever the connection to the cursed network. But as the shattered remnants lay scattered across the floor, I realized that the curse was not contained within the machines. It was inside me, an indelible stain on my soul, a permanent reminder that some doors once opened can never be closed. In my final journal entry, one I now share with you in a desperate bid to warn others, I write of the cursed website and the horror it unleashed upon my life. I write of the night when the digital barrier between our world and a realm of nightmares was torn asunder. I write of a malevolent force that lurks in the deepest corners of the internet, waiting patiently for its next victim. And as I put pen to paper, I can still hear that low, insidious whisper echoing in my ears, "You belong to us." Even now, as I share my story, I feel the weight of that presence, a constant reminder that the website still exists, lurking somewhere in the vast, uncharted depths of the digital world. Its pages may be hidden, its code altered, but the curse endures, a dark legacy that defies explanation and promises that no one is truly safe. I write these words not only as a warning but as a plea. If you ever stumble upon something that shouldn't exist, do not dare to engage. For once you open that door, you may find that the darkness has already claimed you. I leave you with this final, unsettling thought. What would you do if you discovered a website that should never exist? A portal into a realm of unspeakable horror? Could you resist its pull, or would you too become a part of its cursed legacy?